Let me start this video off with a question. Who's your favorite song artist? A lot of people out there would say something along the lines of Taylor Swift or Drake. You know, people that everyone's heard of. But for me, my favorite song artist has to be JT Music. I know, what a surprise, the favorite musician of someone like me being someone who makes songs about video games. Well, it's true. I've been watching their videos for years now and been loving their music the whole way through. In fact, they made it to number 13 on the list of my top 25 favorite YouTubers. And if I were to remake said list, they'd probably be even higher on it. So you know what? I say it's high time I pay tribute to them. Just a couple rules before we go into this. For starters, one per franchise, because there are plenty of series out there that Skull and Pat have made tons of songs about. And in order to keep things interesting, I don't want the list to get bogged down with too many entries from one franchise. Second, unlike the Random Encounters video, I'm only taking the music into account here. Sure, I might mention the video if it's relevant, but the video itself will have no bearing on the placement of the song. And finally, don't get too mad if you don't see your favorite JT Music song on here. I have around 150 of these guys' songs on my phone. So, as you would imagine, this list was pretty hard to narrow down. And if you never heard of JT Music, hopefully this video will convince you to check him out. Anyway, with all that said, let's begin.
Knock, knock, it's Trevor, craziest crackhead redneck ever. When I'm in a cockpit, I'm pretty clever, but other than that, well, never.
Let's start this list off with where I started with JT, the Mob Rap. The Mob Rap was the very first JT Music song I've heard, and as the years went by, they made it into a pretty big series, with the 6th entry finally capping it off. So since the original is what introduced me to JT, I just had to put at least one of them on the list, and out of all of them, I'd say the second is my favorite. The Mob Raps, for those uninitiated, are not about the Mafia, but rather about the various enemies in Minecraft. Yes, they're called mobs. I don't entirely know why, but they are. In each of the raps, a bunch of the different enemies get their own verses, and that's about it, but it's pretty enjoyable. Now, why is it that I picked the second one? Well, for starters, the earlier ones I think were the better ones, partially because of nostalgia, but also because of the fact that as they went on, they started to run out of enemies. Now, why did I pick the second one specifically? Well, I thought it had a good selection of mobs, both new ones and returning ones from the first rap. But what really puts it on the list is Herobrine's epic verse at the end. For those who aren't familiar, Herobrine's kind of seen as sort of a terrifying urban legend in Minecraft, so they worked him into the end of the song. And he gives off a pretty good air of intimidation, you know, for a comedic Minecraft song. In all honesty, there are probably a lot of better songs I could be putting here, but considering the fact that the Mob Raps are what introduced me to JT Music, I had to put one of them on here. Did you know that JT Music made a rap about Markiplier? Yeah, they used their typical formula to pay tribute to a YouTuber that they really enjoyed, like what I'm doing right now. I swear there's a meta joke here somewhere and I'm just not seeing it. The first important thing to note about the Markiplier rap is that it has a lot of energy. The beat's fast-paced, Skull sounds really into it, and sampling Markiplier's own audio was a creative decision that I feel really enhanced the song. What can I say? Mark's enthusiasm is just that infectious. Speaking of which, for context, I should probably give my thoughts on Markiplier. I'm not that big a fan of him. I don't dislike him or anything, I just haven't really seen that many of his videos. But I have seen a few, and have enjoyed them when I saw them. While his type of content's not personally my thing, he does come off as very likable, and it's not hard at all to see how he gained such a following. Including Skull and Pat, who make it beyond clear that this song is a labor of love. Like I said, since I don't watch his content that much, I don't really get most of the references, but the sheer amount of enthusiasm directed at this guy is truly commendable. It might seem weird that I'm getting this pumped over a tribute to a guy that I don't even watch, but most of JT Music's songs are about games that I don't care about and have never played. So really, it's not that weird at all. You know, another series of JT music songs that I had to include an entry from on this list is the video game Legends series. How it works is each song has a bunch of different verses from a bunch of different games, all tying together to a singular theme. All the songs in this series are good and get a wide variety of games represented. The first one was about heroes, which was good even if the chorus was unintentionally hilarious. Basically, it builds them up as heroic paragons when half the representatives are anti-heroes. The second one was about villains, which took from most of the same games and was also really good. However, the one on this list is the third one, which was about indie games. The reason I picked the third one is that it plays a lot like a greatest hits compilation. With the exception of the representatives from Indie Game the Movie, every game featured in this song already has a JT music song made about it. So not only are there a good deal of callbacks to those previous songs, but they also managed to strike a nice balance between recapturing the feel of that previous song while at the same time making all the verses feel consistent with each other. This makes a lot of sense, as JT music songs tackling the big popular indie games tend to be their most popular ones. One thing I should probably stress at the end of this entry though is that all three of the video game Legends songs are pretty good. If this one didn't exist, another one would probably be at this spot. How to make a song about Sea of Thieves is a question that, in hindsight, has a pretty obvious answer. Make it a fun, upbeat pirate shanty. Well, JT Music, alongside Captain James Bosworth, who I'm assuming is a good friend of Skull and Pat's in real life, succeeded in this with Booty Bound. The first notable thing to talk about here is the voices. Both Skull and Bosworth put on really good pirate voices throughout the entire song, to the point where half the time I can't even tell which one of them is singing. The chorus in this song is epic, projecting a great sense of adventure as you're sailing the seven seas, and the verses are just plain fun. They have a good feel to them with lyrics that talk about the joys of being a pirate, not to mention being peppered with a few pirate-themed innuendos that I couldn't help but snicker at. What can I say, between the music, the lyrics, and the voices, this song gives you a great feel for all the fun of being a pirate. So if you're ever in a swashbuckling mood, this is a great track to put on. Remember back in the Random Encounters video when I said that they gave Pokemon Go a song that was way more epic than the game deserved? Yeah, they weren't the only ones who did that. JT Music did it too with their rap, We All Evolve. Just a quick side note about that title, while it's definitely fitting, for some reason when I look at it in my notes, I think I'm about to talk about the rap they did for the game Evolve. But anyway, on to the song itself. It's widely agreed upon that Pokemon 1 is designed to cater to those who grew up with Generation 1 and then kinda stopped playing Pokemon afterwards. And this rap does the same. And I mean that in a good way. A lot of these lyrics, while not ripped from the anime, feel like they would be right at home in the original theme song. Not to mention the excitement behind Skull's rapping about being a Pokemon master makes the song a lot of fun. My favorite part has to be the verse where he cleverly works in every single Pokemon type. Although, going through it, I did notice a bit of a flaw in it. At the beginning, he says he knows every type of Pokemon, but he doesn't bring up fairy types. Guess no one told him about Gen 6, huh? Regardless of that little nitpick, this is still a great rap about catching Pokemon, ironically enough coming from a guy who rarely ever raps about anything Nintendo related. Here's a pretty out of left field choice for this list, the Dream Daddy for me, based off of the game Dream Daddy. Dream Daddy's a goofy, comedic dating simulator, so it makes perfect sense for the song based off of it to be a goofy, comedic love song. The song itself's pretty funny. I especially love the part where Skull keeps accidentally spewing double entendres at a barbecue. And of course, hearing Skull serenade the various dads in this game is pretty funny and kinda sweet as well. But what really puts this song on the list is just how catchy it is. I don't know, I guess the more pop-ish feel of the song and that chorus make it really memorable. It's funny, sweet, and really catchy. What more could you want from a song about a game where you date the various dads in your neighborhood? You know, earlier on, I said that whenever JT Music does a rap about one of the big popular indie games, they tend to be their most popular songs. The reason why is pretty obvious. Those games have the most dedicated fan bases behind them that are going to push content like this. But at the same time, that's not to say that these songs aren't deserving of said popularity. The songs that JT Music makes about some of these big indie games tend to be some of their best ones. Any of their songs about an indie game that didn't make this list, you can assume was in the running. Anyway, on to the first of these songs that made the list, To the Bone. You know, aside from Undertale the musical, this is probably my favorite song about Undertale. The song has a good setup, it's a back and forth between Sans and Papyrus, the game's two most popular characters, and it also manages to strike a good balance in tone. They make a bunch of jokes throughout the song, but they touch upon the game's more serious themes as well. The beat's pretty good, sounding retro enough to be straight out of Undertale, and Skull's Sans and Papyrus voices are good too, and sound good in the song. What else can I say? The song sounds great, has a good setup, and manages to strike a good balance between the humor and seriousness of the game it's based on. Now I know this is going to sound weird, but Can't Be Erased is not my favorite Bendy and the Ink Machine song. Now I know what you're thinking, if that's the case, then why is it above To the Bone, which was your favorite Undertale song aside from the musical? The reason is very simple. There is some stiff competition when it comes to songs about Bendy. But I will give Can't Be Erased this, it is one of my favorites, and it's my favorite Bendy and the Ink Machine song that emphasizes the fact it's a horror game. They did a great job of giving this song an intense, haunting atmosphere. I mean, just listen to the beginning, or the instrumental, or holy crap, the chorus.
Shamed and defaced, scathed and disgraced, tainted by hatred and can't be erased.
I wouldn't say it's the most haunting JT Music song, because I don't think anything's going to top Your Own Damnation in that regard, but at the same time, they're two different types of horror. That one's more somber, while this one's more energized. You know, kinda like the games they're based on. Another thing I gotta bring up about the song is that I like the voice that Skull gave Bendy, but at the same time, am I the only one who thinks that he kinda made Bendy sound like he's in the Mafia? Like I said, not a complaint, just an observation. So yeah, this song does a great job of building an unsettling atmosphere. Now, is it my favorite JT Music song about a horror game? Well, let me put it this way. I happen to like really intense, spooky sounding music, and JT has roughly made 50 million Five Nights at Freddy's songs, none of which have appeared on the list yet, so what do you think? Ever since it came out, people have been comparing Overwatch to TF2. The interesting part about this is that despite the game's surface level similarities, they're actually quite different. But I'm not here to get into the nitty-gritty of the games, I'm here to talk about the most entertaining comparison of the two. JT Music's rap battles. How they work is very simple. It's a rap battle between one of the classes from TF2 and whichever character from Overwatch is most similar to them. They've had plenty of matchups such as Widowmaker versus Sniper or Mercy versus Medic, but my personal favorite of the bunch has to be the first one, Tracer versus Scout. So why do I like this one above the others? Well, for starters, I think it has something to do with the fact that it is the first one, so it's the reason we have the others, but it goes beyond that. It also has a much different feel than the others. The others are structured more like a traditional rap battle, with one character getting their verse, then the other character getting theirs, which is something I do enjoy. But since this rap battle is between two characters who are known for being very fast, it's constantly going back and forth between them, and honestly, I think the roasts hit harder that way. Not to mention, it gives a much speedier and more hectic feel to this battle than the others. The music helps with that too, and I especially like when it slows down to make the punches hit even harder. Not saying I wanted the others to adopt this style, as I do like the traditional rap battle format, I'm just saying I like the way this one was done. But since this is a rap battle, I know what you really want to hear about. The roasts. Any good rap battle needs a lot of good roasts in it, and this one certainly delivers. Both sides get in some really good digs at each other, but it's clear who won. Scout. It's not so much that he overall gets more good lines than Tracer, as they're pretty evenly matched throughout the song. It's that there's one line that clearly crowns Scout the winner. Let's see if you can find it.
I should have told you I drop bombs
You're not the kind of gal to bring home to mom.
I'm from the Overwatch, but I've got no mercy.
At least my butt didn't start a controversy.
I know the introduction to this video made it pretty clear that JT Music is my favorite nerdcore artist, but that just raises the question. Who's my second favorite? Well, for a while it was DA Games, you know, back when he could be considered nerdcore. Now my second favorite's a Stupendium, but that's a video for a different day. Back to DA Games. Wouldn't it have been great if during the height of his music making, he did a collaboration with JT Music? I mean, come on, my two favorite nerdcore artists together in the same song? Talk about awesome! So now you understand why Don't Tattle on Me's on the list. Of course, it's not just that. Obviously, the song wouldn't be on here if it wasn't good. The beat here is pretty fast-paced, but what makes this song really stand out is just how well the collaboration is woven into it. You see, this song has three people in it. Skull, DA Games, and Andrea Storm Caden. And instead of coordinating them off into their own separate verses, the song constantly switches between them. That way, all three of them feel like they have a constant presence throughout the song. Well, at least Skull and DA Games. Andrea doesn't have that many lines, but she still feels like a part of it. The one part about this song that's kind of unfortunate is the title, Don't Tattle on Me. Now, on the surface, it doesn't sound too bad. I mean, it makes perfect sense for a song about Tattletale, until you realize that Fandroid also made a song about Tattletale with the exact same name that then got covered by Caleb Hiles and then got remixed by The Living Tombstone. And once The Living Tombstones touched it, chances are the other song with the same name isn't going to be the first one that pops up. It's not really that big a deal. No one involved could have known about this. Plus, the song's title isn't even in the video title, but I just felt like it was worth mentioning. Just a quick clarification of the rules here, TF2 versus Overwatch counts as its own franchise. Why am I bringing this up? Because number 5 is Meet the Crew. I know it sounds like I'm bending the rules here, but A, I'm about to bend the rules even further in the next entry, and B, can you really blame me? It's Meet the Crew. I mean, I had a few hang-ups about putting it on the list due to how old it was, but then the remastered version came out and smoothed out all the rough edges, so then I basically had no choice. But anyway, I suppose I should stop talking about how I had to put this song on the list and start talking about why. JT's had plenty of songs with a ton of verses, each one sung from the perspective of a different character in whichever game the rap's about. Some of these include the GTA 5 rap, the mob raps, and most of the Overwatch songs they've done. Meet the Crew is easily the best of these. Why? Because it's all the classes in TF2. In other words, 9 characters that are highly memorable, highly entertaining, and have a ton of personality. And this song certainly does them justice. Each character gets their own verse, and they're all as long as they need to be. They each give you a general rundown of the character's abilities, as well as giving you a good idea of said character's personality. Not to mention, Skull manages to do a decent impression of each of their voices. But on top of that, there's some other nice things about this song, like how the instrumental is a good remix of TF2's main theme, or how the chorus flat out acknowledges that they were late to the party with this rap.
This rap is kind of overdue, but now it's time to meet the crew,
Or even how in Pyro's verse, despite the fact that it sounds like muffled screams, you know, like his dialogue in the game, if you listen closely, you can notice that there actually are lyrics behind it. All of it comes together to make a great rap about a game that's so well loved, it's still receiving support over a decade after it initially released. Well, it had to happen at some point. JT's made so many great FNAF raps that I had to put at least one of them on the list. The only problem is, I couldn't decide. Right now, I'd like to direct your attention to the beginning of the video. I said that I didn't want multiple entries from the same franchise clogging up the list. I didn't say anything about multiple songs. Now I know what you're thinking. Defaufalizer. Are you seriously putting all of JT Music's FNAF songs at this spot? Well, I'm not doing that. But just cause you asked, I'll throw in a little caveat. I'm only counting the ones made about a specific game, so the rap battles don't count, and as funny as I find the Christmas song, that one doesn't count either. I know this feels like a cop-out, but JT's made so so many good Five Nights at Freddy's songs, I couldn't pick just one. In order to prevent this video from being an hour long, I'm just going to go over each one briefly. Five Long Nights was a good start. It wasn't amazing or anything, but it was enjoyable. It nicely captured the feel of being a security guard at Freddy's and had a pretty good chorus. Five More Nights was a massive step up, this time taking it from the animatronics point of view. I really like the robotic filter that was put over Skull's voice, which is good because it's used quite a bit throughout these songs, and this was the first of the FNAF songs to give a more intense, horror-y vibe, while the first one kind of more so just sounded like Skull freaking out. Which is fine, but I like this better. Another Five Nights is a lot like Five More Nights, but much faster paced and a bit more intense. I like Skull's freak out verse towards the end, and I also like how the chorus is a callback to the chorus of Five Long Nights. For those who don't know, this is likely due to the fact that back then, we actually thought Five Nights 3 would be the last game in the series. We Don't Bite took things in a bit of a different direction. Rather than being high energy, it more so focused on being horrifying and kinda depressing, similar to the Isaac rap. Come to think of it, those two actually came out right next to each other. Now that's one hell of a coincidence, huh? Join the party. I'll be upfront with this one. At first, I just listened to it once and never again because I didn't really like it. But when I revisited it for this video, I ended up liking it a lot more. Kinda fitting for this one to be the awkward odd one out though, as FNAF World is the awkward odd one out of the Five Nights at Freddy's series. Join us for a bite. This is one of the few JT music songs sung entirely by Andrea Storm Caden. Not much to say other than that she has a really good singing voice and does a great job here. You belong here. The verses feel like a more intense version of Five Long Nights, and the chorus has a really good back and forth between Skull and Andrea. The FNAF rap remix. I love medleys. They always feel like they're paying tribute to the great songs that came before them, and this one's really well done. And finally, Now Hiring at Freddy's. Not only is it really catchy, but especially with the accompanying video, it's probably the funniest song JT's ever made. Yes, even more than We Got Ours. If I were to pick one of these, I'd probably go with Now Hiring at Freddy's, but I liked them all so much that I just had to bunch them together like this and sort of take you through the progression of them, because it felt like a journey just watching them. I'd really like to see them do a rap on Ultimate Custom Night, but at the same time, I can't blame them if they're sick of Five Nights at Freddy's after doing this many songs on it in such a short amount of time. I also understand that this entry probably would have made a good number one, but there were just 3 songs that I felt had to be above it. Judging by everything you've seen so far, you'd be forgiven for thinking that the FNAF raps were my favorite JT music song about an indie horror title. However, as you can probably tell by the way I'm framing this, that's simply not the case. So which one is it? I mean, that's a very specific criteria, and it's not like there's a whole lot of options left. Tell you what, I'll give you a second to pause the video and guess which one it is. Got it? Good. Number 3 on this list is the Little Nightmares rap, Hungry for Another One. First thing to note is like Booty Bound, this song has a bit of a sea shanty vibe going on. However, while in Booty Bound it was jolly and fun, here it's dark and intense. And it's not the entire time either. This song covers a surprising amount of ground musically. Andrea Storm Caden guest stars here and has a couple segments where she laments the current situation of her character, and both her and Skull get decently long segments where they rap impressively fast. I mean, not at Eminem speed or anything, but then again, would you expect Eminem level speed from anyone other than Eminem? Yeah, I didn't think so. And between the moody sea shanties, the fast rapping, and the tragic laments, we get one hell of an intense chorus.
This nightmare ain't over. I watch my window for the morning sun. I know when it's over, I'll just be hungry for another one.
All that amounts to a pretty good package, but would you believe me if I told you that this wasn't my favorite JT music song about an indie horror I'm kidding, this one is my favorite. My favorite in that very specific criteria. We still have 2 more songs to go here. You know, once Fortnite came out, there was a bit of a debate over which was better, Fortnite or PUBG, but it wasn't really a debate. Fortnite won pretty quickly. However, there is one category where PUBG absolutely obliterates Fortnite. JT music songs made about it. Now, I don't think Battle Bus Boogie or Never Give Up are bad songs, but they absolutely pale in comparison to Four Loko and number 2 on this list, The Last Man to Stand. How would I describe this song? Epic, intense, and virtually every syllable imaginable for those words. Again, I hate using this word because of how overused it is, but this song truly is epic. It starts off feeling like it's about to build up to something amazing, and somehow it just manages to keep getting more and more intense as it goes along. Then, after the chorus, it kind of evens out and even dips in intensity a bit, just so it can come right back with that amazing guitar solo and the most intense part of the entire song.
Make sure the tank's full, we'll be going far. Would you rather have a scar? Wasn't talking about the weapon, I was talking about the guard. We look like bombs, but we rain like stars.
And then it dips once again just so we can get right back into the chorus. I know I haven't had a ton in the way of insightfulness to say about this one, but that's because it's kind of like riding a roller coaster. And you don't really describe your experience riding a roller coaster, you just feel it. But if you want to hear me get more insightful, well, we still have one more entry to go. You know, after all this, wouldn't it be funny if my favorite JT music song was about Skull's favorite game? It sounds like a weird coincidence, but it makes sense when you think about it. After all, if the song's about their favorite game, they're probably going to put a lot of extra effort into it to make sure it does the game justice. And really, the sheer passion and effort poured into this song is what puts it at number 1. But I'm sure some of you still haven't figured it out and are wondering which song I'm talking about. Simple. Rapture Rising. Where do I start? How about the lyrics? I actually played the original BioShock after hearing this song. This song was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back in getting me to play it. I mean, I had every intention of playing it at some point, but this song is what made me want to play it as soon as possible. And when I did, I was floored by just how faithful this song is to the game lyric-wise. Virtually every line is a clever reference to something in the game in one way or another. Musically, the song has a pretty good contrast between the verses and the chorus. The verses have a pretty dark and heavy beat to them, which is complemented by the way Skull raps in them. This is to represent the gritty hellscape that Rapture's become. Meanwhile, the chorus is grand and booming, in order to represent the high hopes that everyone had for Rapture. Oh, and also with the chorus, it's a literal choir, with Andrea Storm Caden singing and Skull providing backup vocals. And the lyrics, while pretty simple, do pack a pretty heavy punch. Not to mention, Andrea Storm Caden gets 2 brief verses of her own, one about the grand hopes behind Rapture, and the other about how it's falling apart. Not to mention, there are a few pretty awesome moments where Skull imitates Andrew Ryan. And despite the utter destruction of Rapture, the song ends on a grand, booming, and triumphant note, with the last line, of course, being "Would you kindly?" And that's what's so awesome about this song. It's not just that it sounds great and that it's well written, but it also takes you on a journey throughout the world of the game. I am Defoffilizer, and would you kindly forget that I used this joke already, and check out JT Music if any of these songs piqued your interest. Bye!